Jeez. We've got the Complete Control S61, which it's got to be a 50k present. Yo, I can't wait to try this. Shout out to Native Instruments for sending me this. They didn't ask me to make a video or anything. They didn't ask me to do any kind of promotion, but I had to show love back. Nothing wrong with the one that I'm using now. I'm using the Alesis VI61, although from time to time it does make FL Studio crash. I think that's just my experience. I don't know why it does it, but these Native Instrument ones are just supposed to be on another level. I think they just connect to any DAW just perfectly. It connects to contact real easy, which is probably the main VST that I use these days. And I don't know what it is about opening fresh things, but there's just something so satisfying about opening fresh equipment. So yeah, it's looking super slick and it'd just be rude not to test it out. But anyways, what's good people, it's Cactus, and in today's video I'm gonna be making an R&B drill beat, but it's gonna be more for beginners. I've realized that I've been posting a lot of content recently, but I haven't done anything specifically for beginners in a while. I haven't been doing it just because I feel like I've done a lot of them in the past. I've broken down everything in the past before, so to me I feel like everyone knows the basics, but I also know that there's more people finding me each day, and those people might not have seen my previous videos. So every now and again I want to drop something for the beginners, just where I talk through everything, not really missing anything out. Either way, I'm still going to make a banging beat. It's not just going to be a simple beat. I just want to make sure that I'm explaining everything along the way. This one's going to be more for melodies, R&B melodies in particular. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. Alright, so as I said, I'm going to be going through this for beginners, so I'm just going to try and explain as much as possible. So it's going to be an R&B drill beat. You want the tempo somewhere around 140. It is getting a bit faster, so you can go up to like 148 even. For now, I'm going to stick to 143, maybe even bring it down. R&B beats tend to be a little bit slower. And I'm going to use a free VST just because I know that some beginners might not have invested in expensive plugins yet. I might change it after I've got the main melody down, but for now, Keyzone's a really good free plugin. I'm gonna go to the Yamaha Grand Piano preset, and then from here I'm just gonna hit F7 to go to the piano roll. So to be honest, it can be good practice not to set a scale, just because there are times when it's okay to go out of the scale, but I think for beginners I would recommend setting a scale. It just makes it a little bit simpler. So you just come up to this arrow here, go to view, scale highlighting. We're gonna go for a minor natural scale. Minor scales tend to sound sad, major scales tend to sound happy. Simple as that. If you feel like it, you can maybe experiment with minor melodic, minor harmonic if you want a dark vibe, but to keep it simple, I'm just going to go with a natural minor. And it's on D sharp. I'll start with D sharp now. We can always change it after. So all that's done is highlighted the notes in the scale. You can see all of these notes are in the D sharp minor scale. So if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes in the scale. Each one of these notes is going to have a number assigned to it as well. And what we want to start with is some chords. And a chord, the easiest way to put it is it's a group of notes played together. There's loads of different chords you can make, but to keep it simple, I'm just going to draw out a minor chord. So D sharp minor chord. To get that, I'm just going to skip a note in the scale and then skip another note in the scale. Now I've got a D sharp minor chord. Right, but then for R&B beats, what you want to use are 7th chords. All of minor 7th is just the 7th note on top, and it just gives it more of an R&B feel. So the first thing that you need to do is just find a chord that you like, and then you can buzz from the first chord. It doesn't have to be number 1. You could, for example, start on number 6, which is B, and do the same again. Just skip every other note in the scale, and then add the 7th on top. In this case, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the A sharp is the 7th there. The difference with this chord is that it's a major 7th, not a minor 7th. So the first chord that we tried was this, D sharp minor 7th. If you look at the gap between these two bottom notes, you're just going up 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 then 4. That would be a minor chord, but this one, the only difference is the middle note. This one's coming up. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So major chords have like a 4 and then a 3 gap, and minor chords have a 3 and then a 4. That's the simple way to put it. I'm not an expert with theory. I don't know all the right terminology, but it's just what I found to be the easiest way to understand it. And now what you can also try is inversions. So for example, if I just take one of these notes, I can press Control and up, and it's going to bring it up an octave. So going from D sharp 4 to D sharp 5. Same thing, but just gives you a different feel. So just experiment at this stage, draw out some chords, try some inversions until you like the sound of one. That's the most important thing. You just gotta like the sound of the first one and then go from there. All right, I'm gonna go back to the first chord that we had, D sharp minor. And then from here, I want the progression to go down. I want it to go 1, 6, 5. I know that's a common progression, so that's the one I'm going to use. And then I'm going to go back up to 1. And all I'm going to do right here is just draw in the chords. I'm just skipping every other one in the scale. So already we've got a nice progression. And what tends to sound nice is when the notes in all of the different chords are quite close together like this. So you can see in these two chords, we've got some of the same notes. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going all the way down here, not going all the way up there. There's not massive jumps. Doesn't mean you have to do it like that. But when a real pianist is playing, sometimes they invert notes to make it easier for the hands to get to that position and just to get a different feel. So let's try invert this A sharp. So I like the sound of that. But you know what, now that I've got this, I don't want this last chord. I'm actually going to extend this one. So I'm just holding Control, clicking and dragging over this chord, and then I'm going to drag it to the end. Yeah, I much prefer that. And if you look, I've got the chords at every bar. This chord here is lasting 1 full bar. This chord here is lasting another. This chord is lasting 2 bars. You don't always have to have the rhythm like that. You could, for example, change this one. I'm just holding Shift, right clicking and dragging down, and that's going to cut off the smallest end. Now I'm going to hit P to go back to the select tool. I'm going to bring this chord back and extend it. Now I'm just going to get a bit of a different rhythm. So I'm liking that. Let me just bring up the volume. I'm gonna press Control and A, Alt and mouse wheel to bring up the volume. You don't want it too loud, but not too soft either. Now to make the chords a little bit more realistic, I'm gonna press Control and A, Alt and S to strum them. And it's just bringing the notes a little bit after each other. And then I'm gonna press Alt and R to randomize the velocity. Again, this is gonna make it more human. And then I'm going to press Control and B to copy it over. Now to stop it getting boring, I obviously need a counter melody, which I'm going to get to. But at the end, I want to do something different with this one. So instead of just having 3 chords, I might make another chord, which is going to be a bit of a passing chord. So what I'm thinking is this end here, let's change the chord there. Or what we could do is just use the same chord again. Which works perfectly as well. Alright, so now I'm going to add in some bass notes. And for the bass notes, you want to use the root notes of the chords. The root notes are basically the bottom notes of the chords, unless we've inverted them. If you remember, we just went from D sharp to B to A. I'm going to press Shift and click to copy them, and then bring them down an octave. And then maybe bring the A sharp up to C sharp. So now we've got the progression, it's time to think about the counter melody. And to be honest, there isn't like a simple way of telling you what counter melody to use, because it's all about what you're thinking of, what melody you've got in your head. You can't just click things in and hope for the best, but most of the time you just want to sit back, play the chord progression, try and think of a melody in your head. If you've got a MIDI keyboard, then you can play along to it as well, and then work out where the notes are supposed to go. I wish there was a simple way to explain counter melodies, but I don't know what's going on in your head, so I can't really think of these melodies for you. One trick that you could use if you want catchy melodies is just not to have like big jumps between the notes and the melody. So you could, for example, just stick to 5 notes. What I mean by that is, so for example, if your counter melody is going to start on A sharp, maybe just use these 5 notes. Get me? And that was just clicking in random notes, but because I'm not doing big jumps in between them, I'm just sticking to like 5 notes. It's going to be easier for the average listener to remember. If, for example, I was just bringing these notes up here, this note there, this one down, it's just going to sound random. You know what I'm saying? The other option is to use a broken chord. So for example, in this chord here, we've got D sharp, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. So if I take these notes and bring them up an octave or 2, you could just separate them and create a kind of arc. If you want a quick way of doing that, you could highlight these chords, copy them, bring them up a couple octaves, and then press Alt and A, and this is going to break the chords up. So for example, I could set it to normal. Could try flip it. So that's just a quick, easy way that works sometimes. For this one, I don't think it's going to work. So I'm just going to use my personal way of thinking of counter melodies, and that's just by playing along on the keys and seeing what I can come up with. So I liked that melody that I was playing there, and if you notice, I wasn't even recording it. But the good thing about FL Studio is it actually records what you're playing without you really knowing. So what I'm going to do is clone this. Sometimes I just like to keep my counter melodies in a separate channel. Then I'm going to go to Tools, Dump Score Log to Selected Pattern, and the last 2 minutes, I wasn't playing for that long, and then Merge. Also, what that's done is, I think at first I was playing in this pattern. I'm actually just going to get rid of those and focus on the second one. So look, I've got this melody now. If I bring it back, there should be something in there that I can work with. So sometimes it can be good to just practice. Even if you don't think you're recording, it's going to record it for you. The other option is to just hit record and don't worry about this. And I think it was the N one that I liked. It's a bit off time, and you can see the velocity is a bit too random. I'm just going to set it to line. I'll try a line and then just hit Control and Q to quantize it, and that's just going to bring it on grid. The thing about quantizing is, if you think about when a real pianist is playing, they're not going to get every note bang on time. So just moving them slightly off grid, or just some of them, can help make it seem a little bit more human and less robotic. And with the velocity, because that's too random, I'm just going to hold Shift, click and drag to get them all the same level, and then hit Alt and R just to make them a little bit more random. Now I'm just going to go through and manually adjust some. Let's bring it down an octave. Now, the other thing that I want to add in is just some shorter notes. Not a lot, but maybe something here. I think that one note is fine. At this point, you can look through different instruments if you want. I like to start with a piano, anything on keys, just because it's easier to hear the notes, and then you can flick through some presets and other VSTs until you get a different sound, just something that you like the sound of. But now you can also think about layering the instruments too. So the sound that we've got is nice, but I feel like if we layer those chords with something like a pad, something a bit softer, something in a different frequency range, it's just gonna sound a lot more full. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm gonna send both of these pianos to mixer channel 1, just because I'm gonna end up processing them same. And if I pull up an EQ, you can see a lot of the energy is around this section, so like the low mids and the mids. So what we could do is find an instrument that's gonna get a bit more of the high mids. And I'll pull up Expand 2 for this. It's a paid plugin, but it's real cheap. I think I paid like $5 for this at one point. And let's go through some soft pads. I'm gonna click down here. I'm gonna click on the piano chords, hit Control and C, and then Control and V in Expand 2. And that's basically pasted the chords into the pad. And then I'm gonna go to the pads, hit Control and A, and then Control and up, because I want them to hit in a different frequency range. But I can also take the bass notes out of the pad. I don't think we need them. And let me show you what frequency range it's hitting. So if I go to channel 2, pull up an EQ there. See how now we're getting this higher energy. If you really wanted to, you could try it up another octave. So I actually like it in the higher octave because look, taking up a lot of the energy that we haven't used yet. So that's the key to layering instruments. And this is basically going to cut out the frequencies below and above this curve, but in a gentle way. And then for the piano, the way I want to process this is definitely some reverb. And we'll just go to the cathedral preset, bring down the size, maybe the decay a little bit. Cut out some of the lows. Maybe around about there. And I actually want a subtle delay above the reverb. That's one thing you need to take note of. The effect slots work from the top to bottom. So if I had the reverb on top of the delay, you're gonna delay the reverb in a way. So what I want to do is delay it first, and then the reverb is gonna act after the delay. I'm gonna turn on ping pong mode so it goes between the left and right ear. You need to bring the panning up a bit if you want to do that too. I'm going to take out some of the lows because I'm going to save room for the bass. And what I'm hearing now is another counter melody. So I'm going to clone this again and just record the pattern that I've got in my head. Because I'm adding another counter melody, it might sound a little bit busy. So I'd most likely save this for something like a hook. So again, a really simple melody. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy because I've already got the main counter melody. This is just going to be a simple top layer that's going to come in every now and again. And let's see if we can find a different instrument this time. Maybe some kind of soft lead. I think this one sounds cool. Now, because it's an R&B drill beat, what I also want to add in are some vocals. So for vocals, you can use things like Arcade, find samples in Splice, find samples on YouTube, which can be a little bit tricky sometimes for copyright reasons. But if you want a safe way, then just use something like Splice or Arcade. All right, so I found some vocals in Splice that I like. So I've come to the playlist. I'm just bringing my pattern in. And now I'm going to bring these vocal chops in. Or not vocal chops, they're just vocal phrases, but I can chop them up. And if you look, they're labeled C minor, so we need to pitch them up 1, 2, 3 to get to D sharp minor. They're also at 100 BPM, so I need to fit tempo, type in BPM 100, and that's going to stretch it. Same with this one. Pitch them both up 300 cent, which is 3 semitones. What I'm going to do is pull up an EQ and just filter them out a bit.
I let you get to me once now, baby.
And take a reverb as well. So with reverb, if you've got the wet level up high and the dry signal down, it means that you're pushing the sound more towards the background. Dry signal is the dry sound without any effect, and the wet level is basically the effect. So you're mixing the dry and wet levels. So if you had dry all the way down, all you're gonna hear is the reverb. So you don't want to get rid of it completely, but I do want to wash it out. Right, now I'm going to chop it up a little bit, just so it's a little bit more interesting. So all I did there was just chop it up and rearrange it, and you just want to make sure that it's on time. I also go on declicking mode and select generic bleeding. What that does is give it a quick fade out at the end. If I didn't have that, it's just going to cut suddenly and there's going to be some kind of click or pop. It's going to sound nasty. All right, so I think that's enough for the melody. I'll play you what I've got so far, and then I'm going to start adding drums. I will turn this into a full beat, but this tutorial was more about the melody. So I think I'm going to skip the process of me actually making the drums. If you like this style of video, if it does well and people want to see all of the actual steps and they like me talking you through everything, then let me know in the comments. I might do another video soon where I go through all of the drums. All right, so this is what we've got all together. Alright, so now I'm going to start adding drums. I'll mix and arrange everything and then show you the outcome. Alright, so I finished the drums, I finished mixing and arranging the beat. Like I said, this tutorial was more for the melody. At one point, I might do another beginner's tutorial for drums, mixing and anything else that you want to learn. But for now, I'm just going to play it and then talk you through what I've done. So in the intro, I've just got the chords. And then just subtly introducing things.
Cactus.
We've got the reverse cymbal. Now the counter melody comes in. different 8/8 patterns. And the vocals. So I'm just subtly introducing things before the hook. Then in the bridge, I've got a filter. It switches to a snap. And filters are perfect to use in R&B beats. And then for the hook, we just got pretty much everything. And then the second count melody comes in here. So this is the 8/8. So we're straight back into the verse here. The beginning of the verse is a little bit different, but then the rest of it is pretty much the same. So I hope you liked the video and I hope you're feeling the beat. For anyone that isn't a beginner, I will do some advanced tutorials soon and just go back to the usual style. But I just wanted to look after everyone that's just getting into production as well. And yo, for anyone that's a fan of the podcast, I just uploaded one yesterday with Simon's video, which was sick. So I highly recommend checking that one out. I've got some crazy guests coming up as well. So just type in Cactus Convos, or I'll leave a link to it in the description so you can see my other channel. But yo, thank you once again for watching the video and I'll see you next time.